Today's story is Punishment by Rabindranath Tagore. He is an Indian writer. Let's dive in and learn a little bit more about him. Rabindranath Tagore, again, was Indian and born in Calcutta, which of course is in India. That's his signature there, those scribbles next to his name. And he was considered Brahmin, which is the top tier of the Indian caste system, which is a system of class that designates in that particular society who is most important. So as a Brahmin, he would have been in the class that had access to education. His family was very well off, very well respected. Even Brahmins were considered to have a lighter tone of skin in Indian culture. And while during his lifetime it was a matter of governmental mandate that you had to be divided into the four caste distinctions that existed, the caste system has been legally outlawed or officially outlawed. However, that doesn't mean that people don't still acknowledge it today. Brahmins only married other Brahmins and typically only interacted in social circles with other Brahmins. So again, that just tells you about his upbringing and his family's distinction. He was nicknamed by Gandhi, which most of you have heard of, Mahatma Gandhi. He was nicknamed Guru Dev, which translates in English as teacher of the world. Guru means teacher, and Dev means the world, or world in Bengali. And in addition to writing short stories, he also wrote poetry and novels, essays. He composed music. He was a painter and wrote plays, and he was an educator and is responsible for the founding of a university in India that is still up and running today. He's the only writer or literateur who is responsible for the composition of two national anthems of two completely different countries, and those countries are India and Bangladesh. And that's a pretty big deal because Bangladesh did not exist as Bangladesh during the years of his life. So that shows you that the impact that he had for a piece of music that he wrote to be used 30 years later for the national anthem of a country. It shows you how he was revered and respected in the larger community. He also contributed to the composition of the national anthem of Sri Lanka. He is the first Asian and non-European to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, and that happened in 1913. Continuing on Tagore, he is given credit for reshaping Bengali literature and music, which when I say Bengali, I mean the northern portion of British India, which today would be the northern portion of India as well as parts of Pakistan. Bengali is simply a cultural distinction, so folks that are Bengali eat similarly, cook similarly, have similar marriage practices and other beliefs that bond that community together. He was awarded knighthood by the Queen of England in 1915. However, 4 years later, he returned that because to make a stand against the massacre of unarmed Indians at Jallianwala by British soldiers. So he was protesting the loss of those lives by British soldiers and saying that he did not want to be considered any part of their honorary military with knighthood. In large, he was regarded as a prophet of peace. So despite him having a high caste distinction, he worked and championed the rights of those who did not have the access that he had throughout his life. That is some of the most important facts that we need to consider about Tagore to gain a better understanding of this story. Now, this story, The Punishment, deals specifically with people who are low caste at the very bottom of the caste system. So you can see that through the way that the husbands are treated or the type of work that they do. And you can also see that in the lack that exists in the household, that Radha and Chandra are left with no resources and no food to provide for the children, or the child who is unclothed. And we see the two brothers working a very low caste menial position with no hope of transgressing or moving beyond that. So the themes for this story will of course deal with the class and gender aspect of that oppression theme. You should see both of those components in this story in dealing with the relationships between this small family. Also, this notion of alienation from the larger society as well as alienation within the family unit. This idea of freedom, which will be unconventional as you consider Chandra's death and who actually undergoes punishment. Immortality, which means, again, legacy, what is remembered about you, what you leave behind for folks to consider about your life, who is controlling that notion of immortality in this story, and who is gaining immortality through their actions. And also, there's a power struggle, very obviously, in the home, in the marriages, but also in the larger community. So these are the things that I want you to think about as you go back and review the story, and as you engage with the discussion board. Consider these themes, consider who Tagore was and why he might have written a story like this. Happy reading, enjoy, and remember to respond to the discussion boards. Everything is due by Friday.